Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to an all-new year of racing with the Middle of the Pack Racing League, for it is 2024, and today we get underway with our first series of this leap year. And with it, ladies and gentlemen, we see the return of the famous and highly popular Toyota GR86 Cup car, manufactured by Toyota Racing Gazoo Racing of North American Division, and we are here today to kick off round one of what is 8 in the Winter GR86 Championship for 2024. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, you asked and we delivered, and we are back to go racing again in the highly popular car that made its way onto the iRacing service back at the start of 2023, and in collaboration with Toyota Gazoo Racing North America, with the arrival, of course, of the GR Cup Series in real life in 2023. Well, that proved ever popular and was an absolute sellout, with all 31 cars on the grid there being in absolutely ample demand in real life. And well, this series was an absolute ample demand on the Middle of the Pack Racing League roster, and we saw our drivers line up in their dozens as they wanted to go racing. Well, it led to absolutely thrilling racing in 2023, and that's why we're back for it in 2024. And with 8 rounds of racing split into 2 cups, as we'll come on to shortly, what better way to start off 2024 here? And we are here today in Canada for what is the first round of the season and the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Welcome to this broadcast. It is being brought to you live, albeit as a post-round broadcast for your viewing pleasure. And what that means, in fact, is the race that occurred earlier this week, back on Wednesday the 17th of January, but we're bringing it to you today as if it were live. So that does mean that with regards to the commentary booth here, we do not know what happens in the practice session that's currently going on, the upcoming qualifying session, or indeed the upcoming race. We've avoided any spoilers where possible, and we welcome you guys and girls to enjoy this broadcast as if it were live, and we'll bring you all the racing action as close as possible to that raw live experience. And if you're tuning in right now, having raced in this race or knowing the result, we kindly do ask that you avoid putting any spoilers in the chat, so that way you don't spoil it for the guys and girls tuning in at home, indeed us here in the commentary booth. Well, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Welcome to this broadcast, which is being brought to you on 2 media platforms for your viewing pleasure. Firstly, of course, on YouTube at youtube.com, and search for Paul Walsh, alternatively TX141TX. And welcome to you guys and girls in the YouTube chat. And we've also got this broadcast being simultaneously broadcasted to Twitch at twitch.tv/TX141. And welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via Twitch. Now, who is TX141? Who is Paul Walsh? Well, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And I'll be bringing you all your racing action tonight, and indeed over the entirety of the season, and we have got an absolutely packed season ahead. And our schedule for today is as follows: times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time UTC. As we can see, in just under 12 minutes time, we'll be going into our maiden qualifying session of the season. 15 minutes in duration and split across our classes. We'll then make our way to the grid for our first race of the season, and that'll be our 30-minute sprint race at approximately 5:30 this afternoon. But speaking of that calendar then, here we go. We've got 2 cups on offer today in the course of the GR86 campaign. And we start off with the Classic Cup, all of the rounds being a celebration of cup racing across the North American continent, and it begins at the Mosport circuit in Canada, and we'll be seeing our drivers then make the way to the United States of America for 3 rounds back-to-back in the large territory. Start off with Lime Rock Park in round number 2, and then we'll make our way to the recently introduced to the iRacing platform, the Californian circuit of Willow Springs Raceway, and then we're making our way to the state of New York for the one and only mecca of road racing in the United States of America. You guessed it, it's Watkins Glen International for our first feature race round of the season. And that'll be on the 7th of February to wrap up what will be the Classic Cup, with the broadcast being a couple of days after that date. And all the dates you see here are the official dates for the races when our drivers take to the grid. And then we'll have a mid-season break of a week before we return on what will be the 21st of February for round 5 to kick off the Far East Cup. And then we'll see our drivers make the way to the Asian and also the Oceanic continents for what will be 2 rounds in Japan and 2 rounds in Australia to bring everything to a close. And it will begin at the Okayama circuit, recently remodeled in iRacing, and we're going to see in its full graphical splendour on the 21st of February, after which we'll then be making our way to Tsukuba. And if you need a circuit that is made for time attack and also cup racing, look no further. Tsukuba is perhaps the ultimate small circuit in the world, and that's why it's absolutely loved by both drivers on a domestic level in Japan and on an international scale, particularly in the time attack classes, and that'll be round number 6. Well, then our drivers make the way down under to Australia for the revival of the Oran Park Raceway, demolished as of 2010 and converted into a housing estate, bringing it back from the grave with reviving it and bringing alive a circuit that was much loved until its conversion. Now it'll be on the 6th of March, and then we bring it all to a close at the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit round 8 of 8 in our second and final feature race round of the season, and that'll be on the 13th of March. So it'll be 6 sprints, 2 feature race rounds, plenty of variety on offer, and well, speaking of variety, there's also plenty of prizes up for grabs, and they're various in terms of their their means and sizes. For as we can see here, we've got a similar prize pool compared to the previous season of racing in the Radical Euro Trip that wrapped up 2023, in the fact that the winner of the Drivers' Championship in the Pro, the Prime and the AM Championship divisions, they will all receive $20 for winning that championship, and that is over the entirety of the 8-round season. We then also have Cup prizes as well. The winner of the Classic Cup, and that is the leader of the championship standings based on rounds 1 through to 4, which we start today, of course, they'll receive $5 in the Pro, the Prime and the AM classes, and the same applies in the Far East Cup. The leader of the championship standings based on rounds 5 through to 8, they will be taking home $5 as well. And then we can see there we've also got 2 non-class specific prizes up for grabs, including $50 for any driver who sees their name drawn out of the raffle hat, and that'll be for any driver who's completed at least 7 rounds of racing, albeit the admins of this series are non-eligible, so it really is going to be a raffle for the drivers, and that does encourage drivers to stay on the grid and complete each and every race. And as we can see there as well, $30 for the winner of the Teams Championship, the prize being split across the team members. It's of their choosing, but we recommend, of course, they split things evenly. Now, of course, we talked about drivers. Who are our drivers for this season? Well, let's start off with the Pro Class. We have got 11 entrants so far, but sign-ups are still open if you want to be on the grid midway through the season. We should point out it's not locked down, and we'd be very happy to have more of you sign up as time goes on, but we've already got a packed grid here, and well, you can see already quite the mixture of names on screen, and a number of returning names, as well as some new names. And we can see there returning first and foremost the number 4 driver, Logan McKenzie, racing for Alpha Touring Rich Energy. The team changing the name from Alpha Touring Change and deciding to come together there, and also number 19 of James D. Carr with him in the Alpha Touring outfit. We also have the return of the number 5 driver, multi-time champion of Jason Landry for Sunday GT Turtles. And between him and what will be James D. Carl there, we can see on the number 18, it's Franz Washing for Forever Alone. And he's the only member of the Forever Alone team. Will he find some company in the team later in the season? You never know. We also see there the newcomer for Middle of the Pack Racing, and that is Jaden Calloway, who'll be racing for ITD West, but it's his first time on an MPRL grid. We welcome Jaden to the grid and hope he has a great time over the course of this season, starting with today. We also welcome back James Logston in the number 42, the Team Bearpoke driver, who was one of the major changes to Jason Landry in the Radical Euro Trip, but it didn't quite work out for him, nor did it work out for James Logston in the end, with regards to the fact both of them in the end in their absolutely brilliant battle along the season with Peter Lowe. And then we can see, and with Peter Lowe being the champion, albeit not on the grid for this season, we do miss him and hope to see him back on a pro grid in the near future. We've also got the arrival of the 73 of Daniel McConnell, the privateer, another newcomer to MPRL's racing. Mika Hendricks returning for West Coast Best Coast there in the number 82, and I'm sure a few of you East Coasters right now will be debating that team name. We also see the return of a huge name in the number 84. We was on the grid for the 2023 GR86 Championship hosted by the Middle of the Pack Racing League. It's none other than Carl Ranieri, the privateer and real life 2022 IMSA Michelin Pilot Change TCR class driver, and we're very pleased to see him back on the grid for this series in the virtual world. We also have Milan Harris there in the number 96 for Rockefeller Racing Esports Red, the Rockefeller Racing outfit returning in their droves as well, and the privateer who we couldn't be without, the number 99 of Edwin Onofre. Now we come onto the Prime class here, and you're going to see some rather interesting names out of our 10 entrants. We're going to focus immediately on the right-hand side of the table, the 161 driver, the driver that everybody will be watching this season, Samuel Bernardi for Rockefeller Racing Esports Purple. Why is that? Well, he's taken back-to-back AM championships in both the 2023 GR86 Championship, plus also what was the Radical Euro Trip Championship that concluded last year's racing. But he's been promoted to the Prime class. He's stepping up his game, and can he step it up and take the Prime Championship as well this season? That will be the big question that is put out in front of him. But of course, he's got 9 rivals to contest with, including Jermaine Warren, who returns in the 113 Privateer machine. Also, Adam J. Ballard there for Rockefeller Racing Esports Purple in the 129. We've also got their newcomer to the MPRL grid, and that's the 132 of David Adeyeye, the Privateer, and we look forward to seeing how David gets on, as we do for ITD West, Julian Jones in the 133. And David Turner in the 135 for Slipstream Sloths, who returns there representing the team that, whilst they may refer to an animal that's typified as being slow, I can assure you they're quite fast if anything else. We also have the return of Bearpoke Zeros, Sammy Hendricks there in the 144, the privateer of Aaron Lahr in the 147, who's seen himself demoted down to the Prime class after competing in the Pro Championship classes for 2023, but his pace wasn't quite there with the Pros, and therefore he's been reallocated to Prime, and we look forward to seeing how he fares in amongst his competitors. We also have there the 177 of John Lauzon for West Coast Best Coast, and Kuroshi Kelly, the privateer who made a brief appearance on the grid in 2023, and the 185 driver returns to the grid for this season of the Winter Championship. We also have in the AM class our 15 drivers here, the most popular class on the grid, and that is going to be firstly the newcomer of Christopher Holliday in the Caboose crew, the 202, a new team on the grid, and we also do have join him Carl Peterson, who you can see at the bottom of the left-hand side of the table in the 250 machine, and welcome to the both, and we hope they have a great start to their season. Tim Chong there for Slipstream slots in the 222, ahead of Mark Senegal for Sunday GT Turtles, and he's going to be joined by the 229 driver of Roger Ganesh in the same team, and they partner up, of course, with Jason Landry in the Pro class. We also have the return of Photan Clans, none other than Jesse Jamison Jr. in the 231, Nick Bader, the privateer, in the 233, and the return of Bear Pope Zero's Ian Hennebury in the 237. But on the right-hand side of the table, we've got another mixture of newcomers and returnees, including the returnee of Kevin Manning for Photan Clan, who partners up with Jesse Jamison Jr. in the 251. We also have the newcomers of Jared Kelly and Seth Pegg, both privateers, and welcome to both to the MPRL grid in the 255 and 259. We've also got the return of Kurt Lane from Bear Pope Zero, a driver who was vying for wins in the AM class in the Radical Euro Trip. Can he pick up some wins this season? That'll be the challenge that confronts the 281 driver, as well as Billman DeCoste there, the 283 driver who's battling for top 5 throughout in the AM class in the Radicals. Will he be able to take his trade to the Toyota GR86 for Team Bear Pope? Nick Yakubov for Slipstream slots in the 288, and lastly the privateer in the 289. We wouldn't be without him in the AM class as well, Glenn Bratton, who always serves up a treat there in the lower class of the field. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our drivers. The best luck to them all for this season, and let's come on to our circuit for today, and it is none other than the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, located near the town of Bowmanville in the Durham region of Ontario, Canada. This circuit, as you can see from the circuit map provided us by iRacing.com, thank you to iRacing for their brilliant simulator and the circuit maps that come with it. This circuit is perhaps lesser known compared to the more infamous Montreal Hybrid Street circuit, which sees the arrival of the Formula One grid each and every year. But let me rest assure you, ladies and gentlemen, this circuit is not to be underestimated, and argue many would call this the true Canadian Grand Prix. Why? Because at its heart, it is a circuit consisting of 10 corners that are all about momentum-based racing, with the majority of the corners being sweepers that ram-pack in elevation changes and connecting straights of varying lengths. This is one of those tracks where you need to be bold, you need to be brazen, and the ability to take the speed all the way to the corner apex and outwards is unrivaled. And if you get it right around here, it's going to feel as though you're on a roller coaster of a ride of a road racing circuit. Once the drivers make their way across the start-finish line and in towards turn number 1, they'll sweep downhill for the opening right-hander before setting themselves up for the rise into Clayton Corner at turn number 2. Clayton Corner is an elevation change, multiple elevation changes in fact, where a rise into the corner before going downhill through the apex, and as the drivers make their way out, they have to balance the art of managing oversteer on the rear end as they go through the elevation change versus understeer as they power their way out of the corner. They get it right, they'll come up towards Quebec Corner at turn number 3, and there it's all about a flatter corner but a very, very, very late apex. And the reason we emphasise that, you'll see in qualifying just how late that apex comes at turn number 3, while drivers sweep the way through turn number 4 and up the rise into Moss Corner at turn number 5, named after Sir Sterling Moss, who recommended that the Moss Corner hairpin be split into 2 apexes rather than its original format when he took to the circuit as part of a number of guest entry races, and well named in his honour, and that's why it has the double apex section there, and it will lead to our drivers running out of the slice corner on the circuit and charging their way down the Mario Andretti straightaway at turns 6 and 7. As they make their way down the long back straight and through its kinks, then head up into the exit at turns 8 and 9, the long right-hander at turn number 8, being followed up by the sharp left-hander at turn number 9, and then switching into White's Corner at turn number 10, slightly off camber at the apex, which will see our drives drift out wide, but if they carry the speed right, they may be just on course for leading into next lap, if not the checkered flag. But as we then come onto our race rules, we wouldn't be without them, of course. Let's talk a little bit about setups for this season. Drivers will be running a fixed setup as provided by the Middle of the Pack Racing League. Car fuel loads have been restricted to 34 litres as we're to understand it, and that means it all comes down to our driver's ability to get the mastery and the command of their car. There's no focus on setup here. It's all about equal machinery for our drivers, and therefore they've got to get the most out of the machine that's available to them. Today, qualifying will see what is an open qualifying format in practice, which means all the drivers will be out on circuit putting in their qualifying laps together, and it is going to last 15 minutes as we said about earlier. But it's split into 2 equal halves, and if you're uninitiated in the Middle of the Pack Racing League series, we'll see the AM class take to the circuit first, and they have the first 7.5 minutes to set their times, and they'll be warming up the circuit for the Prams and the Pro classes, who will jointly take to the circuit for the second 7.5 minutes of qualifying to wrap up the qualifying session. And the sprint race, well, that will start by a standing start grid, as is the tradition of the Toyota GR86 Cup series. We'll see all drivers launch off the line. Each driver has 1 fast repair available to them over the course of a given race, and the driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 15 or more instant points. We've reduced the number down to 15, and that's going to encourage our drivers to avoid those pesky track limits and also keep it clean. And we should point out, compared compared to the previous season where we saw the prospect of safety cars on the opening lap of the sprint races, no safety car will be deployed at any point during the sprint races this season. We'll only see it in the feature races, and therefore that means we get the maximum possible race time here in our sprints. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we head back to our circuit side pictures. Most of our drivers all set and ready to go now, and we are only 15 seconds away from going to our maiden qualifying session of the season, as we do see David Adeyeye here in the 132 making his way into White's corner at turn at number 10. And how will all of our drivers fare? We can see Jason Andreas top the timings overall and in the pro class down the left hand side of your screen. We're going to be right back, ladies and gentlemen, as we transition to qualifying. Who's going to be on pole? Let's find out. And as we very quickly return there, and we apologise for having to step away for a brief moment, it's time for qualifying. 15 minutes, 7.5 minutes for our drivers in their respective class sessions. And let's see who's going to be able to lay down the 1 lap pace marker. As all the drivers start to make the way out, we'll see the AM class drivers making the way out firstly. And for the uninitiated, you may be wondering, how do we know who's an AM, a prime and a pro driver? Well, firstly, you may notice in our drivers' cars, and thank you to the middle of the pack league administration for doing this, they've put a number of specialist paint jobs on the cars. Our drivers are running their choice of livery, their team liveries if you will, but you'll notice in particular that their door cards and also will be the wing mirrors have a particular colour attributed to them, with the AM drivers, much like Kirk Lane here, running what is the orange coloration of their door cards and also their wing mirrors, and that will represent they're in the AM class. Meanwhile, it's going to be light green that we'll see for the purposes of what is our prime drivers, and then we have the infamous blue for what is our pro drivers there, so that's how you discern them, and that will also be visible on where's our circuit map in the top right corner of your screen, and also in the timing tower on the left hand side. Now, if you're also wondering about how a point scored in this championship, well, much like the previous middle of the pack Racing League Championships in 2023, the championship points are scored on overall finishing position first and foremost, so that encourages all of our drivers, regardless of what class they're in, to battle one another over the entirety of the racing. You may be the leading AM driver and you may be just ahead of your AM rivals, but you can get more points by finishing ahead of your AM rivals, plus also finishing ahead of a number of pros and primes if you've got the pace to do so, and that means the battles can run to the ragged edge and all the way down to the wire, and sometimes you can see fireworks kicking off between pros and primes in the early stage of the races, particularly if a prime qualifies in the front 2 rows of the grid. They will absolutely dig in to hold on to that position as the pros try to fight their way through it, and it's the same for the AMs versus the primes typically. But also keep in mind that in our AM and prime classes we also see bonus points attributed to the podium finishers, and what these bonus points are, they're in respect to the fact that the drivers have done exceptionally well in their class. We don't see this in the pro class, however, and it will be in the AM and Prime classes, the winner of the class race, well, they will be taking 3 extra points, 2 for second place and 1 for third. So that's our point schema for this season. Indeed, we carry over from last season, no changes there, and indeed as we look to Glenn Bratton making his way through a whole new livery on the car this season. I think he's gone away from the typified red, the chrome red livery, and now gone to a much more sedate blue and black on the car, and I must say it looks absolutely wonderful. He's on to his first flying lap of this AM qualifying session, and what's the art of the tricks here in order to get pole position at Mosport? We'll simply put around here, whether you're racing around in a higher downforce car or a very low downforce car such as these GR86 Cup cars, you need to have confidence and the ability to carry the speed into the corner, but also on top of that you need to return to full throttle as soon as possible. This is the ideal momentum based racing circuit, and these cars are momentum based as well, in the fact they are packing 2.4 litre 212 horsepower 4-cylinder engines, and they're absolutely wonderful little engines. It's a lightweight car as well, but the thing is, because you have so little engine power compared to other classes in machinery that you may see race around Mosport, it does mean around here you can't really gain too much speed back, and on the long straights it takes a long time to build up the speed. Much like MX5 Cup car racing, you could say that this car is analogous to that. Well, that does mean for our drivers here every mile per hour matters, and as we do see Mark Senegal, the Sunday GT Turtles driver, making his way through the final corner. Well, Kirk Lane puts the first time on the board there at 33.446. We saw 32s in the practice session from some of these guys, so therefore they'll be looking to try and raise the bar even more, but as Senegal makes his way through turn at number 1, the Sunday GT Turtles driver puts down 33.350. It's a good lap. Can he go even higher? As we do look to Christopher Holliday, meanwhile, making his way on for the long right hander there, a turn at number 8 in the all-white machine as he comes into turn number 9. Well, they're not running any colours on the car right now, but still it does stand out in the sunshine. And heading towards the end of his first flying lap, what's it going to be for Holiday? We comes to the line, and it is going to be there. I do believe it's a 35.401, but it's in 3/10 of Nick Bader's time, but not too far away. And he'll be feeling as though he can get a little bit closer. Then it was 2.5 in reality, but still some time to be found there for Holiday. And meanwhile, we're still waiting for Jesse Jamison Jr. to get a valid lap on the board, as we do see here the Photon Clan driver making his way on down that back straight. As he does so, run in the middle of the pack, racing that league livery there. One of the official liveries that our drivers can choose to run on the car if they so desire, representation of the hosting organisers. As he comes into the final corner here, what's it going to be for him as he weaves his way on round through the right-hand apex of turn number 10. It's going to be the last lap here for the first flying laps, and Oil tries starting to get faster and faster. We goes at P12 down to 45.753. Roger Ganesh is in the pit lane, I'm hearing, and they're having some issues with the car right now, so I don't think Ganesh is going to get a lap out here, or he is going to leave it very late in the day. But meanwhile, as Kurt Lane comes out the final corner here, we're going to be jumping on board with Lane as he takes us around for a flying lap of the Mosport circuit. So he makes his way across the line, takes pole position provision into turn 1. You notice there just the lift and shift of the throttle as he comes through in 4th gear. Now powering his way up towards turn number 2, going into Clayton corner, over the rise, and now where's the apex? You can't see it yet. He's got to lift off the throttle and just smoothly bring the car in. Let's go a little bit deep, and then hits the apex in 4th gear. We'll bring the car through flat out now, all the way out towards Quebec corner, and onto the brakes he goes. Approximately 80 meters from corner apex, right to the apex curve, nice and high. 3rd gear, but you'll notice how hitting that apex curve and mounting at the front right tyres actually pushed the car outwards there, and that's caused some understeering the car, but using the tyre of one of his rivals in front in order to keep up the speed as he comes sweeping on down through turn number 4, and now into the braking zone here for Sterling Moss hairpin as he comes all the way down from 5th gear to 2nd gear, and as he connects the 2 apexes together, gets it nicely hooked up in the 2nd apex and back on the throttle from 1st up through the gearbox. Now as he dropped to 1st at the apex to try and get the revolutions per minute of the engine up, and now powering his way down the back straight, down the Mario Andretti straightaway here. He's just simply flat out, he'll be wheeling the car on and just waiting patiently now for the run all the way into the next braking zone. But in fact there, I do think Lane decided to back off, and in doing so setting himself up for perhaps one more qualifying lap. We're going to stay on board all the way to the end, but there was a lift of the throttle there, and I think trying to work with the driver in front of him, and that driver being none other than, I do believe, what is there, Kevin Manning, and both of these drivers trying to work together as he sweeps his way for the right-hander at turn number 8 into 9, holding 4th now, dropping to 3rd, now coming in to the final corner here, 4 lanes to White's corner, where he's going to go once again as he comes out of the right-hander to the time at 9 he goes, and well, for Lane it's not going to improve, but for Manning this could be a sizable improvement. We'll have to wait to see. In fact, for Kevin Manning, who right now is coming through, in fact that wasn't Manning in front of him there, that was Tim Chong, we do apologise, but Manning cross line improves to P7 on a 34.279, and as he makes his way up through the right-hander, well, one more lap available here to all of our drivers in this AM class before they will have to come into the pits, and the pros and primes will be unleashed onto the Canadian circuit. And well, I can tell you one thing, the pace is already absolutely brilliant, particularly if you're Kirk Lane, who right now on a 32.902, the only 32 in this AM class. Can anybody else find a way to get into the 32s here, or will he find himself qualifying quite high up and with a 3.5 tenths gap to Mark Senegal, who is in the pits right now? He won't be putting in another time. You would imagine that Lane is going to feel very confident, not he's just going to take pole position in the AM class, but he may be able to spearhead his way in between some of the primes and give himself a really strong starting position and the best possible opportunity of some major championship points in this season opener. But again, qualifying just one part of the story. You've got to complete 30 minutes of race and take that checker flag as well before you get any points on the board. And meanwhile, some drivers will continue to find themselves a little bit further down as Carl Peterson is in the pit lane. He won't be putting in another lap, and we're being told that the pros and primes have been released. Well, it's to be expected. We are now into the second half of this session. Well, the AMs will finish their final flying laps and immediately make their way into the pit lane, and it'll be Nick Yakubov here, the Slipstream Slosh driver, who's looking to find a little bit more pace in the car, and he was on a rising tide of pace in the Radical SR8 Championship. And as he makes his way out to the final quarter here, what's going to be for Yakubov? He has been improving through sectors 1 and 2. He comes through sector 3, he goes P9 down to 34.667. It's a nice improvement for him and leapfrogs him right up into that mid-pack as Tim Chong improves to P4 on a 33.757. And well, meanwhile, we look to Glenn Bratton as he comes through the final corner. I don't think this is going to be an improvement for P5, given the fact he's 1 second practically off a Lane's pole time. Lane into the pits, Bratton comes across line, does not improve, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, only 2 drivers out there at the moment in the AM class. Nick Bader in the very colourful machine there, it must be said, in the 233. Can he find a little bit more time out there as he makes his way on through White's corner to complete his qualifying session? He's currently 6 tenths off a pole, now he's 3 tenths off a P2. Can he make it onto P2 in the class? No, he cannot. And meanwhile, what about Christopher Holliday? Well, Holliday comes on through the final corner. He hasn't improved in sectors 1 and 2. Looks though this final lap's not an improvement for many. see, and I think he's going to be staying P11 here in the AM class, and indeed he will. Well, that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen, for our AM drivers, and Kirk Lane, subject to a review of track limits of all the drivers' laps, will be taking up pole position in the AM class. But now we're in to the even dicier end of qualifying. It's the Pro and Prime qualifying session, and well, Jason Landry was the fastest driver in the pre-practice. Can he now find a way to convert that into the overall and the Pro pole position, or will we see some of his rivals find a way to strike back? Well, Landry right now towards the back of the qualifying field, as the majority of the field is getting ready to make its way onto its first flying laps, including Adam J. Ballard here for Rockefeller Racing. And as he comes up through the right hand there, new liveries on the Rockefeller Racing cars, as we're splitting the car down the middle in terms of the black and white. And we'll definitely an innovative design change there, and it does really look nice on the car. Well, they all sweep their way into the opening corner, and Samuel Bernardi a little bit further behind here. Keeping in mind, he's got the bigger pressure on him for this opening qualifying session in the Prime class, in the fact that he's come up from AM, and therefore, in his mind, I think he'll be looking to try and put in his best impression here to try and demonstrate to the rest of the field just how quick he can be compared to his fellow Prime drivers. But will it be as straightforward as that when you do have the likes of Wiz David Turn for company that we see here making his way into Quebec corner, and also John Lauzon? And well, a story about John Lauzon, the driver who you could argue in the middle of the pack racing league, he's much loved, and indeed a driver who we wouldn't be without. Where he goes racing, he has an absolutely brilliant attitude to the racing, but the problem is as well, he seems to bring with him bad luck in the middle of the pack racing league series. Whether it's in the GR86 Championship in 2023 or the Radical Eurotrip Championship, he was on a rise at certain points, indeed picked up a couple of wins, but for all that as well, absolutely dismal luck in a multitude of races put him out of championship contention very early, particularly in the Radical Eurotrip Championship. No matter how hard he battled back up through the field, every time he made momentum, he found himself with misfortune confronting him. And can he find a way in 2024 to put the bad luck away? We hope he can, because we know how much pace he's got under his fingertips and his feet, but will that be demonstrated here today as he comes on through, turns 8 and 9, sweeping through the S's and in towards whites, and as he goes, well, you can see the majority of our Prime drivers really focusing on the slipstream just as much as they are about their own cornering around him, and trying to gain 2 to 3 tenths a lap by being in the toe of another car, particularly down the Mario Andretti straight away. But as he heads in towards turn at number 1, where it is James Logston who takes the provisional pole position so far, albeit we have got a few drivers yet to lap him. But here is Logston for Team Bearpo on a 32.651. But remember, those lap times are only going to get faster and faster as the drivers continue to lay down the rubber here at the Mosport circuit, and therefore we are expecting low 32s by the end of the session, particularly also when the fuel comes out of the car in the final lap of the qualifying session. So here you've got to be in it to win it all the way through. But meanwhile, speaking of the two drivers together, as we see Carl Ranieri there decide to take a bit of a rallycross line coming out of turn number 1, carrying a bit too much speed, plus also the draft over the back of Jason Landry's car, perhaps upsetting the aero balance of the car and causing it to understeer a little bit more. You can definitely tell that Ranieri is absolutely attacking right now, and he wants to follow Landry and simply use Landry as his pace car, if you will. And Landry right now feeling confident that he can get this pole position by just doing the lap under his own esteem and not needing a draft to be able to do so. It is a gamble, of course. When you sit in the draft to another car, you do gain on the straights, but you lose out some of that front end downforce over the front of the car, and that dirty air as a result makes it harder to turn in. You normally have to turn in prematurely for a lot of sweeping corners, and Mosport is absolutely dominated by sweeping corners, so it'll be interesting to see how that gamble plays out. But meanwhile, we look to Daniel McConnell, and Daniel McConnell here in the number 73 as he makes his way on down the back straight and going into the S's here in what is the Pro machine as he comes through. He's currently P16. He'll be hoping to improve a little bit further, and we should see our Pros and Primes leap up the board once again. Now they've got a second lap on the board, and this is normally where we start to see the indicative times. Milan Harris down to 32.274. Meanwhile, here comes McConnell. He crossed the line and he stays P16. McConnell not having a happy second lap, and as a result, he's going to now have to do it all in the final 2 laps available to him. Remember, when the clock strikes 15 minutes, we have overtime rules in effect, and it will mean that a driver is allowed to finish the lap thereon. But meanwhile, the big question mark is Jason Landry. He's gone purple in Sector 1. He's not invested in Sector 2. He moves to P4. Ranieri moves up to P6. Is this a gamble that's not going to work out for Landry? As right now, it's looking as though Milan Harris is going to be your pole sitter with 2 minutes to go here. 2 laps still to go for all the drivers. Can anybody find a way to dethrone the man who's only half a tenth ahead of John Lauzon? And speaking of John Lauzon in the Lego machine, as he comes on down through turn number 4 and in towards 5, well, right now, as he rolls his way uphill through Moss Corner, he's going to be feeling very confident. This could be a prime pole position, his first pole position in the middle of the pack Racing League Series, and that'll be a great way to start things off, particularly when he does have 4 attempts to Julian Jones, who, let's not forget, Julian Jones newcomer to the grid, not just for this season, but for middle of the pack racing as a whole, and putting on an absolutely brilliant qualifying session here so far. P5, 4 tenths off the overall pole time, and feeling quite confident here with David Adeyiyi a further what is 2 tenths behind in the battle of the prime qualifiers. But keep in mind as well, it's just as much about qualifying ahead of pros and AMs as it is about qualifying ahead of your prime peers. If you're Julian Jones, and therefore you'll be hoping he can move up onto that second row and get in amongst Logsdon and Landry. Well, here they all come through once again. It looks like a lot of the drivers not improving this time around as they come across the timeline, and as they do, what's it going to be here for Jones? It's not an improvement. Can anybody else find improvement here? I get the feeling that I think the tyres are only really good for 2 laps, as Milan Harris has already gone into the pits. Harris has had enough. You can see him there parked up at the end of the pit lane, and will just sit in his pit box and think as though he's got the job done. Meanwhile, one driver right now will be looking for some more time out there, Sammy Hendricks, who is looking at a P23 start right now. Aaron Lara's in the pit lane, so Lara's not going to be going out there in qualifying, so he'll be starting from the very back of the field alongside Roger Ganesh on that 15th row. The grid of things are as they stand. We've only got what is 20 seconds left of this qualifying session, and as our drivers wind their way on through this final lap, well, we do look to what is Francois Schenk, the Forever Alone driver in terms of team name, albeit I hope he's not forever alone in real life, or if so, he definitely needs a hug as a result. As he comes on through at turn at number 5, I can tell you the number 18 driver right now is keeping in good company as he rolls off the right hander at turn number 5 and down onto the back straight here, and well, he's got a bit of company in front. The ITD West machines starting to run side by side here, I think, trying to work their way around one another, but the toe being so important, and you can see they're tucking into the toe by the Team Bearpoke machines as they come on down here, down the straightaway. Meanwhile, Jaden Callaway just a little bit further up the road, coming towards the end of Sector 2. That's going to be the run into the S's, and Callaway absolutely charging here as he makes his way up through the S's now. Can Callaway find a bit more time before this is over? Checker flag is out. He's going to be the first try to take what will be the checker flag of this qualifying session, and as he comes in towards whites at 10, well, number 37 driver here, he's going to be starting P15 currently. Can he get himself into the top 10 here on his debut? Well, here he comes, and it's an improvement, but it's not enough. He stays P15. What about elsewhere in terms of drivers all making their way to a line? Here comes Mika Hendricks, I should say, as he makes his way through the right hand. David Turn moves up to P16, gets ahead of Adam Ballard, but meanwhile Hendricks here crossing the line, tucked in very close to Sammy Hendricks, and as he does, he jumps to P4. It's a 32.594, but meanwhile Jason Landry is charging here as he comes to the line. Could this be a pole position for Jason Landry? No, it's not. It's a 32.526, but it puts him P4. Carl Ranieri, meanwhile, a bit further back, losing out towards the end of the lap. Well, that's qualifying, ladies and gentlemen. It's Milan Harris on pole position overall in the pro class on a 32.274, half a tenth clear of John Lauzon, who'll be P2 and your prime pole sitter, and in Kirk Lane, P9. The AM driver takes the first AM pole position of this season, and indeed his first pole position of his middle of the pack racing league career. So that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, all these lap times will be subject to investigation of track limits after this qualifying session, so we may see a shuffle when we go to the grid if any of the laps are invalid, and that's why the limitations of us looking back at an iRacing replay file. And another limitation is we can't give you replays midway through the race, so we'll do our best to catch everything as we go. This definitely has been a qualifying session where we have seen the field absolutely threaded together, and we're looking at the fact that the top 10 separated by 6 tenths there. I think that's just as much the toe as it is about nailing the lap right now. We are in for a thriller of a season opener here at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park in Ontario, Canada. And well, who will be the winner after this? That is going to be on the lips of everybody in the spectator stands and even down the paddock. And well, even drivers who qualified outside the top 10, such as David Adeyiyi, who we see going into the pits, could have a chance. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to head to the grid. So as our drivers make their way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for the first round of the season. It is Milan Harris who takes pole position overall in the pro class for Rockefeller Racing Esports Purple. He'll be joined on the front row by John Lauzon for West Coast Best Coast. The prime pole sits there P2, and then behind them the pro pair James Logsdon for Team Bearpoke and Mika Hendricks for West Coast Best Coast. Now Jason Landry starting at P5 on the grid, ahead of Julian Jones for ITT West on his debut. Francois Schenk starts P7 for Forever Alone, ahead of pole sitter Kirk Lane for Bearpoke 0. Edwin Offler starts P9 the privateer, ahead of David Adeyiyi, who starts P10, and then Carl Ranieri and Samuel Blardy complete what is your 6th row of the grid, P11, P12. Behind the Rockefeller Racing Esports driver will be what is Mark Senegal for Sunday GT Turtles, and then Daniel McConnell at P14 of the privateer, head of Jalen Callaway for ITT West and Adam J. Ballard for Rockefeller Racing Esports. And then we have on row number 9, David Turn for Slipstream Slavs and Nick Bader, the privateer, ahead of Tim Chong, who starts P19, and your top 20 is completed after the Slipstream Slavs driver by the privateer of Glenn Bratton. Peterson. We then do have the pairing on the 11th row of the grid of Billman DaCosta for Team Bearpope and Sammy Hendricks for Bearpope 0. And then we have Ian Hennery for Bearpope 0, starts P23 ahead of Kevin Manning for Photon Clan. With then what will be the pair of Nick Yakubov starting at P25 for Slipstream Slavs, head of Photon Clan's Jesse Jamison Jr. And then on the 14th row of the grid, it's Christopher Holiday for Caboose Crew, head of teammate Carl Peterson, with Aaron Lar the Privateer and Sunday GT Turtles Roger Ganesh completing your grid of 30. But the grid is all set, ladies and gentlemen. They're all in position. The lights are about to go on, and we're about to get this new season of racing underway. And who's it going to be into turn one? Will it be Harris or John Lauzon? Well, here we go as it's lights out, away we go for the season opener. And as Harris charges out of the box, it's going to be Lauzon who's on the outside, but a slow start for John Lauzon will leave him vulnerable versus James Loxton into the opening corner. As Loxton takes peak on the inside there, Harris defending quite comfortably. Albeit Lauzon now in the second stage of the corner, starting to build up the speed. And as they roar their way uphill, Lauzon's going to go on the inside to take lead. Harris having an absolutely terrible exit out the opening corner. Through Clayton's they go, and as they roll their way through, everyone right now safely side by side through the opening couple of corners. It's brilliant to see as they make their way into the braking zone for Quebec corner all on through. And as they do, further down the order, we see here David Turn looking for the move on what is Daniel McConnell, as Nick Bader and Tim Chong go side by side in the battle for P3 in the AM class as they roll their way off of the third turn, and now down towards the Moss they go. But as they do, we can already see this battling separating the field as they head on down into the braking zone. We look further up the road, it's going to be Harris here, who's going to fend off both Mika Hendricks and Francois Schink. And there's going to be what is Hendricks on the inside, Schink on the outside, as meanwhile your race leader Lauzon goes very wide. James Loxton has to take a base of action there to get the speed out the corner, and as they power their way on down the back straight, it's going to be a drag race here of the two GR86s, and both equal machinery there, no change in rear wing between them as they make the way in towards the S's. But Lauzon on the outside, Loxton on the inside, being pushed along this Lauzon by Jason Landry. Landry getting his teeth in here, wanting to try and take P2 back immediately, as it's going to be Loxton who holds the inside as they make the way on the rise. And now into the dip before the S's entry, and well, 2 by 2 they go. But who out of these guys will be leading come the end of lap number 1? Well, it's going to be Loxton on the inside to the outside now as Lauzon comes back, but they go side by side into White's corner. It's not over yet, and Lauzon on the outside. I think Loxton's going to come on through to take the lead after one lap of racing here as they roar the way to lap number 2. It's Loxton ahead of Lauzon. Oh goodness me, there's been an instant further back, and that is going to be absolutely tragic for the field coming on through. I think there might have been some contact between a couple of drivers. Carl Ranieri getting caught up, and that so was Milan Harris, but that's a dramatic turn to events there, as meanwhile we return now to the midfield as it rolls its way through. Multiple places gained by many of our drivers. Unfortunately, we can't get a replay of what exactly happened there, but we know that Harris, Schink, Ranieri, Bernardi and Peterson were all caught up in that instant as we're to understand it, and as they roar their way onto lap number 2, well, there's no safety car in this race, and indeed we stay for the full 30 minutes of racing. We've lost 5 drivers, and now 25 carry on, and as they do, we look back to Billman DaCosta being passed by Aaron Lar as the prime driver who started P29. With that P30 on grid now tries to carve his way up the order, and as they roar their way down through 4 and in towards the Moss corner once again, with DaCosta here now having the pressure. Nick Yakubov looking around the outside to the inside. Can the rival AM driver find his way through? Billman DaCosta says no, you can't, and the Team Bearpoke driver doing well to hold on there as they make the way through 5 and off the run they go. But as they do, and heading on to the back straight from them, we look back up to your race leader in the AM class, and this is Kirk Lane, the Bearpoke 0 driver, having a great start today, up to P6 as well. He could be looking for a top 5 finish here, which if so, that would be huge, and indeed it would be one of a very limited number of AMs who ever finishes in the top 5 in the overall positions in any given middle of the pack racing league series. But meanwhile, Julian Jones here is not focused on that. He's focused meanwhile for ITD West on keeping up what is Mika Hendricks behind him as the Lego machine chases after. And Jones here showing no signs of being worried, but instead just keeping in step and making sure to stay on circuit, although pushing very wide there out of White's corner. It's got to be careful that with the raised exit curve it can unsettle the car, but as they bounce their way down into turn 1, you can see the suspension compressing on corner entry, and as they roar their way up the hill in towards turn number 2. Right now line the stern between these drivers as they make their way onto a 3rd lap of racing, but at any moment of course the places could change once again. Speaking of potential place changes, this is Nick Bader who's looking for a move on David Turn as the privateer goes on the hunt. And as he does so, we do ride on board here with the nose camera looking down over the car as Nick Bader in the 233 looking for P13. Unlucky for some, but David Turn, we hoping his luck holds out here. As you can see, both drivers serpentining their way over the apex curve of the 3rd turn, and now making their way onwards towards Boss Corner here. Well, there's plenty of time to go, and keeping in mind, of course, this being a 30-minute race, well, the tyres are definitely going to fill somewhere over the course of the distance, and could we see some drivers fall off the cliff in terms of pace in the later stages? as they make their way out of turn number 5 here. You can see a better run from turn. He goes deep on corner X, and that's going to give Vader the gradual opportunity to close back up. Chong just behind, meanwhile not really able to get in the fight here at the moment as we look backwards, and as we do turning the camera around, the 2-3-3 driver Vader still feeling comfortable as he makes his way on up towards the S's, but as he does, meanwhile we look to James Logsdon battling side by side with Jason Landry, the two drivers who definitely have been known throughout the years having an absolutely intense rivalry in the MPRL series, and it's back here once again as they make the way through. Landry now on the inside of turn 9, but Logsdon knows if he can hold the outside here, add the inside into wide, Landry cuts back, but Logsdon not giving it, knowing what's going on, parks the car in apex, but this will of course compress the field back together, and your top 5 right now is separated by less than a second as they go on to the next lap, and as they do, Hendricks on the inside here of Jones, as Jones backs off on the run through the corner, and Hendricks there having to rely a little bit on the space being given to him, and they respectfully give each other the space. They make the way in towards turn number 2, and as they do, well, right now this top 5 is absolutely explosive from corner to corner, with still Logsdon ahead of Landry, and Landry now under pressure and allows on. As they make the way in to the 3rd corner, will Lauzon now have to try and find a way to negotiate Landry, but of course Landry will not want Lauzon to fight him too hard, as they won't want Logsdon to get any breathing room. You can see behind, that's Kurt Lane and Edwin Nofre have closed up. Now the top 7 separated by what is a margin of only 1.6 seconds, and well, the more they fight, the more of the field are going to have come up to the back of them, so this is not over yet, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a long way to go, and indeed this lead battle could go all the way to the final lap. Speaking of battles, this is Nick Vader right now under pressure from Tim Chong, still behind David Turn, and Turn still digging in here as hard as possible. Oh, goodness me, and that is going to be contact between David Adeyiyi and what is there, I believe, Adam Ballard. The two drivers coming together, and Adeyiyi immediately having to be towed to the pitch due to damage to the front suspension to all. I think the two drivers trying to contest the space on the exit Moss corner, and in the end, it's all ended in tears for them, and Ballard right now waiting for the field to come through before turning the car around. But as he does so in the rear of the pitch there, we do look to Roger Ganesh, right now the Sunday GT Turtles driver on the defensive versus none other than Kevin Manning, who lost multiple places at the starting class, but he's gained a couple overall. And as they make the way in towards the S's here, well, Manning right now itching for an opportunity to try and move up in towards P20, get inside that top 20 overall, a couple more points available, and get a one-up on his fellow AM driver as they come from the right into left here and onwards towards whites they go. You can see the different lines, and Ganesh there under huge pressure really right now, absolutely clambering over the curbs there, and in doing so, that's only going to galvanise Manning and give him more encouragement, but at the same time, it's a slow run for Yakubov coming out the final corner, and that's going to bring all 3 of these drivers together in the battle for P19, and Yakubov right now under increasing pressure as they make the way in towards turn number 2, but Ganesh having to go defensive again. I think he's figured out a good offense, when in fact a good defense is a strong offense, but right now into turn 2 you don't want to be on that inside line if you're not fully alongside as you lose so much momentum. You can see Ganesh right now trying to go all on the brakes here, but again just being cut off by the nose as he makes his way through turn 3, and again Yakubov knowing exactly where to place the car to prevent Ganesh from getting fully alongside, just cutting him as they make their way towards the apex, and here comes Manning as a result, as Manning looks around the outside here, 2 by 2 they go, down in through turn number 4. It's very risky business through 4, because you've got to keep the car all the way tucked to the inside if you're Manning for 5, and as he does so there, well, through they go, giving each other ample space. This is brilliant racing between the two AM drivers, and Manning in the end can't quite get it done. He doesn't get the power down that tight exit line. He hasn't got enough room to breathe, but meanwhile giving each other very little room to breathe as well is Landry and Logsdon as we come back up to the front of the field. They've just ended the run on the back straight, and again you might be thinking right now we're seeing a repeat of the previous lap. No, we're seeing a new lap here, ladies and gentlemen, as they make the way on towards what will be for them lap number 6 shortly, and this is Logsdon on the inside keeping Landry at bay as Landry continuing to try and knock down the door that Logsdon is setting up. Lauzon on the inside here, and the prime leader right now really trying to push for the overall win. He would be the first ever prime driver in the GR86 series that would take an overall win. Of course we did see what was the performances of other drivers in the Radical Championship push for overall wins, and indeed we did notch up an overall win from a prime driver, albeit I can't remember their name right now, it will come back to me, but the point being as they make the way on through turn number 3, Lauzon trying to make history here, and that name of course being Ilya Speaker in the Radicals, who picked up the Pro-Am overall win in what was the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. But coming from history back to the present here as they make the way on through turn number 4 and up towards 5 right now, all the drivers once again line astern here as they come down into the braking zone for Moss, but you can see how this field continues to compress. And Mark Senegal right now only what is 1.6 seconds off of Callaway, and Callaway is onto the back of the leaders. It's now a top 8 separated by 2.5 seconds, and I think this fighting is only going to bring more and more drivers into the fold before the race is said and done. Keep in mind, of course, we are only what is 9 minutes through this 30-minute race. We have got a long way to go here, and these drivers absolutely delivering in the early stages. But look at this, it's a change of positions now. Longston on the outside going up towards the S's versus Landry's on the inside. So I think now Landry keen to try and get along, but here comes Lauzon as well, looking on the inside of Logston. So Landry's going to take the lead of this race because Lauzon's there. He can't give Logston the opportunity to come back, but Logston's going to really snatch the brakes into turn 9. That's going to put Lauzon behind into turn 10. But he's going to get his nose back in there as they make their way for the right hand, bounce on the curb. You can see it upsets the car, and as they make the one through, that's going to cost Lauzon places. Lauzon's dropping down the order, and here comes Julian Jones. Jones looking around the outside to take the lead of the prime class in P4 as he comes up from the ITD West driver right now, absolutely giving it everything here as they make the way in towards turn number 2. And as they come over the rise now, Jones will know that he's in a good position. Can he hold on for his first ever prime win on his debut race? Well, the 133 driver will definitely be thinking to take it one lap at a time. And as they come on through the third corner, meanwhile, looking further back, Billman DaCosta still on an attack versus West Glen Bratton for P5 in the M class, P16 overall. And these guys will continue to get closer and closer as well. So what is a midfield pack and a bit of a midfield scrap here between Nick Vader, David Turner, Tim Chong and Sammy Hendricks and Aaron Lahr. In fact, you've got 6 drivers here compressed together in a very short space of time. And as they come down the hill and in towards Mosport, well, right now, could these guys really upset the balance one another? Aaron Lahr thinks about it versus Sammy Hendricks, looks up the inside there, but Hendricks knows that it's a feint and Lahr's not close enough to force the move into Mosport. But there, Lahr really trying to throw the dummy. And as they come out to turn number 5, and that's the drag race down the back straight with what is Samuel Bernardi a lap down there after the incident coming on to what was lap number 2 on that start-finish line straight. And Bernardi right now respecting the blue flags, pulling out of the toe in order to bleed the straight line speed off of the car, so that way he can't be in attacking distance going into the S's, because as you can see here, Hendricks and Lahr still side by side. They made the way past our stationary camera in towards turn number 8, and as they go, well, it's going to be Lahr around the outside, Hendricks on the inside here, and Lahr's really trying to hold on. You get the inside into turn number 9, through the left they go, switching back, there goes Hendricks, but there's not enough space, and Lahr plants it firmly in his face and says no you don't as they come through turn number 10 and on towards another lap they charge. And as they do, Aaron Lahr right now definitely showing his experience versus his rivals as he comes down through turn number 1 and positions himself brilliantly for P4 in the prime class. But still, they've got a long way to go here if they want to get inside the overall top 10, and that's where the big points are as they make their way in towards the left hander of turn number 2. But as they come on down and through the corner, meanwhile from these guys we look to what is Nick Vader, just a bit further up the road, and here Vader right now being pressured by David Turn and also what is, I do believe, Tim Chong there in the hunt for P11, and right now being the cork in the proverbial bottle that is preventing this group of cars from catching up to the top 10, given the way he's digging in. But to be fair, he wants that third place in the AM class, but here comes none other than David Turn, who's looking around the outside, and as the slipstream slots driver goes through, it's a bold move. Can he make it count? Well, if so, that you don't normally go around the outside at Moss Corner, but David Turn says, yes I do, and as a result, he proves us wrong in the 235 as he makes his way down the back straight and onwards now to turn number 8. That was a brilliant move from Turn, and it's not over yet as we have, I believe, a free wide here starting to emerge. That's Lahr on the left of your picture, Vader in the middle and Chong on the right, and as the camera turns around and they all switch places in terms of that directionality, will Lahr right now capitalise on the AM driver of Vader being out of position coming out of Moss, and Chong as well, and with the reverse Moses manoeuvre almost here, albeit Lahr in the end gets the position, Chong does not, and Vader stays ahead of his AM rival, but he loses out versus the 2 primes in the space of 5 quarters. But here comes Chong all the way on the inside. It's a very late dive to the inside, but the slipstream slots driver thinks it's worth the risk, and as he comes through, he just overcooks the final corner. It causes him to lose too much speed and run wide, and as he does now build up the speed, here comes with Sammy Hendricks looking on the inside as meanwhile Samuel Bernardi, the free wide into the corner. Bernardi there, he's a lap down, but he wants to get involved here as much as he's allowed to do so, and in the end it's going to enable Hendricks to get ahead. Bernardi now on the outside of Chong, but Chong holds the inside into turn 2. Surely Bernardi's not going to commit around the outside of the second corner, given the fact that around there we've been so off camber you'll be in the grass, and then Bernardi backs out knowing it's not worth the risk. But meanwhile, as we look back from the drivers to your leaders, we look to Jason Landry, your race leader right now, who's got a gap of 6 tenths over Mika Hendricks, who in turn has got James Logston behind. And the point being here, it does look as though Hendricks and Logston are fighting more and more. Perhaps they've settled their differences right now, but Jason Landry is almost 7 tenths clear as they make their way down the Marion Jetty straightaway. They will close up in the toe, but Landry might be on course to try and break away. Martini with Holiday in front, a lap down, only 3 seconds up the road. If Landry can start to get close to Holiday and can use the tyre fit for a couple of laps, Landry may just be able to break away. And if he can get that gap up to about 1.4 seconds, the tow effect will start to be marginalised, and that's where he can really start to try and make this race win his own. But as they come through turn number 8 and onwards towards the end of the lap, coming to the end of their 9th tour of the circuit under race conditions, well, Landry right now has got a lot of work to do if he wants to make this happen. Meanwhile, speaking of work, this Aaron Log going to work around the outside of David Turn for what is P4 in the Prime class, and in fact P4 in the Prime class, we should point out, with David Turn dropping to the 4th place as I mentioned, and as they make the way on to what is for them at lap number 10, Aaron Long now up into 3rd place in class P11 overall, and he is absolutely flying. Is the priority in the lime green machine as he comes down into turn 1. Could he potentially get even closer? Could he get involved in that race lead battle towards the end of the race? Well, he's got the distance and the time to do so, given the fact his next target is Mark Senegal, who is 5 seconds up the road. But when Aaron Light is cutting out what is half a second a lap versus Senegal as a minimum, you would imagine that he's feeling confident he may just be able to get into this fight before the end of the race. But as he comes on through turn at number 3, we'll look back to Glenn Bratton, who's looking around the outside of Ian Hennebury as they come on through turn number 3. And as we jump on board with the privateer, it's going to be Hennebury goes a little bit deep. They haven't gone defensive into Quebec Corner, and as he powers his way on through and down towards turn number 5 they go. The drag race between the two drivers here as he weaves his way around the outside to get inside of Moss, but Bratton there balancing the throttle and knowing it's very risky to carry all the speed through 4 with the understeer element kicking in. And as they make the way from the off-camber corner to the very flat turn 5 hairpin, where it's going to be Hennebury holds on, but now Bratton's in the tow, and you'll notice it's 4 attempts initially, but now the tow effect starts to really build up, and this is where Bratton can start to bring that gap back down as they make the way to the a third of the waypoint down the Marangetti straightaway. They've got a long way still to go. The speed continues to build here for Bratton mile by mile as they head in towards the next braking zone. But as the miles per hour continue to rack up, Will Hennebury's not going defensive yet, feeling as though Bratton's too far away, and indeed it looks as though he gets that assumption right as he makes his way a little bit deeper into the corner compared to Bratton. I think Bratton conscious of the dirty air there in the draft of his rival, and therefore doesn't want to overstep the corner, and therefore put himself at risk of losing out versus DaCosta behind as they come through turn number 10 and come towards the end of the first half of this race. As they charge their way on to the next lap, we do look back to Roger Ganesh, who still finds himself in a bit of a compressed battle in Nick Yakubov with Carl Ranieri behind there, the Pepto-Bismol privateer, who was involved in that second lap incident. We saw him head to the pits. He's back out to the circuit, but a lap down. So Ranieri right now really racing for pride and trying just to get himself back on the lead lap if he can. But as they come out of turn number 1, Ganesh, I think, will be keeping his head down for Sunday GT Turtles and looking to try and get a bit closer to the Slipstream Sloths car of Yakubov just in front. These two fighting for P9 in the AM class and P20 overall. So still a key position. They won't get any bonus points for it in the AM class, but they will get the overall points accredited to them. And as they come through turn number 3, you can see Yakubov getting the better run out of the second quarter, and as a result, the gap opening up. But then a poor exit out of 3 gives Ganesh all the ability to close up. But you can see Ranieri there continuing to poke and prod to say to Ganesh, look, do you mind letting me through? Because I'm faster than the pair of you. And I think Ganesh is so focused on racing Yakubov and saying, well, remember there's blue flags in effect. But of course, respectful racing from all 3 drivers here, and indeed professional conduct at all times. They make their way out of turn at number 5 and onto the back stretch. But as they come down, we look back to your race leader here of Jason Landry, and riding on board and looking back over the rear of the car, the Canadian driver in the number 5 continues to lead as he makes his way onto lap number 12. 13 minutes ago, new fastest lap of the race from James Lobster, 32.191. Could we see a 31 before this is all said and done, given the fuel loads are getting lighter and lighter, and in the tow that is only going to make the pace of these cars even more ferocious. As they come down through turn number 2, Landry right now, the one advantage he does have is he doesn't have the dirty air of any of the cars behind him for these opening sweeping corners, and that just gives him a bit more confidence in the car and the ability just to push it a bit further, whereas Hendricks and Logston, they have to give chase. And when you're giving chase, you're made to push, but in that dirty air as well, it can upset the balance of the car and just upset you as a driver, particularly if you carry 1 mile an hour too many as they go through a particular corner. But as they come out towards turn number 5, Hendricks and Logston showing no qualms about being in this fight right now as they head on through turn number 5 and onto the back straight they go. But notice how in return, in P4, John Lauzon has fallen a bit further back. In fact, I believe John Lauzon has just retaken the lead of the Prime class with an error from Jones, and as a result, Julian Jones has dropped down to P6, and this has caused the lead pack now to split into two smaller packs with the top three breaking away. And then we do have John Lauzon in P4 here, who's just trying to sprint off into the distance right now. A breakaway from Onofre, who's bringing Jones with him. So Lauzon, I think, is absolutely hurrying the car along. He's trying to hustle as much as possible as Hendricks is trying to hustle his way around the outside of Landry, going through turn 8. But here comes the inside of turn 9, through the S's they go. And well, these two absolutely digging into one another now. We see plenty of side-by-side through the final three corners of this circuit. But Hendricks on the outside runs it out onto the grass. He brings it back together. Here also comes what is Logston. Logston on the inside are trying to push Landry along into turn 1. Thinking about trying to make it free wide there, but as they go tight to the inside wall, there's going to be no room for Logston as they come out of the opening corner. Up towards turn 2 they go. Charging on through me on the rear of the picture. That is an offer. It goes a bit deep. Coming out of turn 1 in towards turn 2. He's looking to hold on to P5 here. Well, right now with Julian Jones and Kurt Lane behind and Lane, your leading Am driver still within a shot of a top 5 finish here. He's P6 at the moment. The Bear Pope 0 driver. In fact, he's P7 at the moment. Let's get that corrected. But the point being here is these only 2 places off an overall top 5, and that would be a huge score to kick off his championship campaign. No questions asked, albeit Jaden Callaway and also Daniel McConnell not too further back. I think you'll also be worried about the fact he does have rising charges coming up behind, and both of them in the pro class eager to make an impression. But Aaron Law also a bit further back in the hunt, currently in P10. And what is the best part of 5 seconds off of McConnell? Well, you would imagine that Law will be trying to close that gap down, albeit McConnell and Law's pace very similar at the moment, so it could be a bit of an equalisation effect. I think Law's going to be at the whim, but more batting further up the road. But speaking of further up the road, we return to Jones, who's going side by side here with Lane. Lane looking around the outside in towards the S's, and well, as the leaders start to scramble there off of the far camera shot, going 2 by 2 into the S's. Here they go. Well, here we look to Jason Landry looking to do the return on Hendricks as they go for the right and into left. But as they do, behind Logston and Lauzon, they decide not to scrap anymore. They want to eagerly await what's going on. Hendricks goes a bit deep out 9. That's going to bring him to the inside of 10, but very slowly. And Landry goes around the outside to capitalise on Hendricks' mistake. And here comes Logston. Logston now looking to also seize the opportunity, moves into P2 as Hendricks and Lauzon, the 2 teammates, now P3, P4 respectively. As they go on to the next lap, they've got Onofre who's closed up, and well, Edward Onofre here just playing it tactically, waiting patiently to get involved, not trying to do anything drastic. And Jones and Lane on the back of this as well. Everybody right now playing it very, very safe if you're not inside this top 3. But this top 3 pushed it all the way to the limit and showing you what close classic racing here in Canada looks like. But from them we look back to Kevin Manning, who right now also trying to get involved here versus Ian Hennebury in the fight for P5 in the M class, P16 overall. As they come out to turn 1 and into 2, well, Hennebury covering off the racing line there versus Manning, and now Billman DaCosta inching closer as they roll off the left-hander and coming out of Quebec, well, not out of Quebec quarter, out of Clayton's quarter and out towards Quebec. It is all going to be about the brakes here, but Manning's so close he can reach out and touch the rear wing of his rival, but he's not going to do so, given the fact that right now he's also got to worry about DaCosta's presence behind, and while the Bear Poke drivers trying to work together here in and where's the Bear Poke sandwich, where Photon Clan filling, and they want to clear Manning as quickly as possible. But Manning absolutely obstinate and not refusing to back down. But as they make the way out of the corners on towards Boss, we meanwhile look to Ganesh versus Yakubov, and these two now finally coming to blows here as they come down through 4 into 5. Ganesh goes very deep at 4 though, and that's going to cost him all the momentum he built up, and now he falls back once again there. But Ganesh definitely demonstrating that he wants that place off of Yakubov, but Yakubov doing very well to defend into 4, and Ganesh just overdoing it through the long left-hander. But he'll have more opportunities given the pace he's been showing. But from them back up to Hennebury versus Manning as they come down the Marion Andretti straightway, and as they head in towards the S, Hennebury lets the place go, lets Manning get ahead. I think the idea being the fact that they can't separate each other, so right now he may as well just play the game of let's work together and just see if we can close up to the back of Senegal, who is 3 seconds up the road, and if they can, they might be fighting in the end for P4 in the AM class rather than P5 in the AM class. As you can see, Senegal there making its way through the camera shot, and now here comes Manning ahead of Hennebury and DaCosta. As they go on to what is lap number 15 after what is 14 laps of racing, your top 10 is Jason Landry ahead of James Logston and Mick Hendricks. There's your 3 pro drivers, and in P4 it's John Lauzon, your prime leader, ahead of Edwin Offre, Julian Jones, your AM leader of Kirk Lane, P7, and then we have Jaden Callaway, Daniel McConnell and Aaron Lowe complete your top 10. Best rest P11 is Sammy Hendricks. But we're looking at the top 10 battle right now, and this extends all the way from P1 them down to P7 from Landry to Lane, and as they power the way down the back straight once again, where it has been a back and forth, it has been an absolute knife fight between Landry, Logston, Hendricks and Lauzon over the course of 23 minutes of racing so far, and we're going to see more blows here, as here comes Logston this time, and as he looks around the outside, well, Landry meanwhile on the inside there, looking just to out-trail break his rival to the apex. Well, as he does so, Logston now have the inside into turn number 9, and again, we've seen this constant back and forth with the fact it's all about the position for the final corner here at White's and where you are in relation to your rival, and Landry on the inside, but they're neck and neck as they clear the apex, and in the end, Logston have a bit more space to get the power down. Landry in return doesn't get the best exit, and as they go into one, still side by side, but Landry down the inside, and here comes Hendricks trying to take a peek with Landry. He can't do it. Lauzon on the outside there to give his teammate all the space in the day. As they come in towards turn number 2, well, Landry right now, the gloves are coming off, as Hendricks is, as Hendricks goes down on the inside at turn number 2. Well, it's a bold move there, he makes Landry go wide, and that could cost the Sunday GT Turtles driver not just 1 but 2 places. Here comes Lauzon as they go into the, oh goodness me, and what on earth has gone wrong there? Well, that's Hendricks into the barrier. Now, was there some contact between himself and Landry? I think there was, because Landry has backed off. I think Landry recognised the fact there might have been a tap between them, and when you're racing this close, that's all it is, but they return to the racing. Great sportsmanship being shown there by Landry, and Hendricks getting back in the fight. They may have dropped out of the lead battle, but they're not out of the lead pack as they return to the race in P7, P8. That releases Kirk Lane into P5 right now, the AM leader. I don't think he's going to quite believe this when he comes past the pit wall and sees that he's down to P5 for Bear Poke 0, and he's only got Julian Jones 4 attempts up the road. Could Lane potentially pick up a podium here today? Or if not, he's going to be looking to be the best the rest of the podium. There's no question about that, as the American makes his way down the back straight, but as he does, now John Lauzon, I think, will look at to pick up the mantle from Hendricks here and go for the overall win, albeit the prime win will be good enough in P2, but I think also Edward offering behind, he's going to be pushed forward to go after Logston, but this is Logston's chance. Can he break away from Lauzon, or will the West Coast Best Coast driver stay with the Team Barefoot driver all the way to the finish? Well, that's going to be what's expected from the Canadian driver. He'll want to stay in the hunt as they make their way to the final 5 minutes plus the final lap of this race. We've still got a little distance to go yet, but now I would imagine the tyres are starting to hurt, and indeed our drivers will now, after what has been an absolutely frantic 25 minutes of race, and they'll be feeling the exhaustion, and this is where the stamina levels start to take the toll. But as Ian Hennebree here continues to try and stay ahead of Kevin Manning. They have swapped places around with Billman Da Costa now the head of the straight. Henry finds himself in the middle and Kevin Manning at the rear. So that's happened off camera there with Da Costa moving on to P5 in AM, and then we've got P6, P7 in AM class behind. But as they make the way on through the right hander at turn at number 1, we're coming up roaring on through. Carl Peterson meanwhile behind there in the Volt Caboose Crew machine. Well, as he makes his way through the quarter down in P30, 3 laps down, but he's got the car out, which is great to see. And Peterson's still trying to push on here. That's what it's all about. Get to the end of the race, get the points on the board, and there is of course that participation at raffle if you complete 7 of the 8 rounds, and a completed race is where a driver finishes with 5 laps of the race winner. So therefore a driver multiple laps down like Peterson is here, as long as he doesn't go 5 laps down, he will be classified as a race finisher and be eligible for that raffle prize. But meanwhile, speaking of what could be a potential raffle right now in terms of positions, here's Hendricks versus Landry in the battle for P7 as the West Coast Best Coast driver being pushed along here by Landry, and Landry knows right now the fight's not between these two for P7, the fight is trying to get close to Kirk Lane for P5 as a minimum, as they make the way on through turn number 8 here. They're trying to work together here, and Landry really showing to Hendricks right now. We've got to fight for a bigger purpose, or as the saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And as they head in towards turn number 10, where it's the partial truce, I imagine, but when we got into that final lap, the gloves may just come off again. But from them, meanwhile, Tim Chong looking around the outside of Bader into the S's. Here he goes. He's going to be on the right of your pitch here in the orange machine, and as he swings it back here, Bader still on the inside into turn number 10, not giving in. It's the 233 Privateer. He's going to hold on. This is for P2 in the AM class, an all-important second place in that AM podium, and what is P12, and as they come down the hill and in towards turn number 1, we ride on board here with the 233. You can see Chong absolutely nipping away at the heels of Bader. These two have been tied up in this battle all the way through the race, and now it's getting to the crunch point here as time continues to wear down on Mosport as they come through turn number 2 and in towards 3 they go. As they do, Chong gets the better out of the corner. Bader lets the car run out as wide as possible. You can see Chong constantly thinking, do I go for it here? Do I look for it here? Do I lunge there? He's trying to get to Bader's head, trying to get Bader to make an error, but Bader showing no signs of giving it. But I can imagine right now in that cockpit for Nick Bader, it is anything but comfortable as they head down through turn number 4. Chong 90's got to back off here, but I can imagine down the back straight he'll be inching close once again in the toe and looking to go all into the S's as they roll off of the braking zone of Moss Corner. And now as they leave, well, you can see Chong gets the better exit, really now gluing himself tight to his rival. As they power the way up through the gearboxes, through the drivetrain, Will Chong absolutely stick into the rear of Vader, trying to get every mile an hour he can before he looks at a run. Well, he's going to have to wait his turn as they make the way on down the back straight, and as they do, coming in towards the second half of the straight now, here comes Chong in the slipstream sloth machine. He's going anything but in the slothish manner as he makes his way in towards the S's. Around the outside, he thinks about it. Will he commit to it? He does, and meanwhile, Vader on the inside there. Chong's going to try and get the inside of 9, and in the end, Vader doesn't get the fastest to run through 8. That's going to give Chong all the position into 9, but he overcooks on the brake, and he's got to switch back to defense into 10. Meanwhile, Vader looking to try and cut around the outside here. He gets the better momentum on the corner, but Chong sees it's coming and puts it right on the racing line. But here comes Vader now into turn 1. He's got a nose alongside. The rear quarter panel lines up, and as they come through into the opening corner, well, Chong's got all the room to play with. Vader's really hooked himself to the inside. It's still too wide as they make the way in towards turn number 2, but Chong in the end just inches ahead as Vader has to back out, and Chong takes P2 in the AM class for now, or P12 overall. Well, he's still got this lap plus 1 more, we reckon, based on where your leaders are, and we haven't forgotten about them. Here are your race leaders. This is Logsdon, 8.5 tenths clear of Lauson and Onofre, and where it looks as though now Logsdon may just be safe for 1 more lap of racing. Presuming he doesn't make any errors, he will be on course potentially for the win here, albeit it's not over until that checkered flag waves, as they say, and therefore let's not put the commentator's curse on him. But meanwhile, we look to Jaden Callaway, the ITD West driver, who finds himself now being caught up to by what is Mika Hendricks, with Hendricks and Landry working together, and they are siphoning their way back up into the top 5 fight. Well, their top 5 driver who they'll be going after is Kirk Lane, and well, here is Lane being passed by what is there none other than Landry, or is he? As now Landry looks to the inside of turn number 9, Lane on the outside here in the Bear Pope Zero driver. I would imagine that perhaps he's being told he's here by the team principal. Look, I know you want an overall top 5, but let this go. Don't risk it and win. And as they come out to the final corner, onto the final lap they go with 15 seconds remaining. The white flag waves, and Lane pulls back to P6, Landry up to P5. Hendricks now fighting side by side here with Jaden Callaway. Callaway on the inside there, bouncing off the apex curve, but Hendricks is going to have all the speed as a result, as he took all the road width. And as they go in towards turn 2, Hendricks gains a place up to P7 as they roll on through, down through a Clayton corner. Meanwhile, from them, we do look back to Chong versus Vader, and will they go into turn 1, and it's still Chong ahead by a nose and a car's length as they make the way on through the right hand of the corner. And I think now Vader is going to have to set up something special here if he wants this place back in the closing stages. And Mark Senegal only 8 tenths behind and inching closer and closer. And in fact, that previous lap taking a whole 1.5 seconds out of the pair, it just goes to show you how costly the fighting can be. But as they head in towards Quebec corner here, meanwhile, we look back to Roger Ganesh and Nick Yakubov, these two still together, and Ganesh trying to throw everything at this once again and find his way through, but he's got only half his lap to do so. As meanwhile, your leaders make the way down the back straight. This is Logsdon for Team Bearpoke ahead of John Lauzon and Edwin Onofre, and Onofre right now not really close enough to look for manoeuvres. Landry off camera has got past Jones, or is side by side that we saw briefly in the past in shot, and as they make the way into turn number 8, well, right now John Lauzon, I think he's going to feel pretty confident he's on course for the prime win. But meanwhile, at the front of the field, in what's been a stellar display of batting all the way through, the one man has stood tall of it all in the end is James Logsdon, because of the checker flag waves. Here's your winner for race number 1 of the season for Team Bearpoke over on Pro. Head of John Lauzon, your prime winner P2, Edwin Offred P3, their first ever podium, ahead of Jason Landry P4. And then it's Julian Jones P5 ahead of Mick Hendricks P6. Kirk Lane takes the first and win of the season for Bear Pope Zero in a brilliant drive to P7 overall ahead of Jaden Callaway, Daniel McConnell P9, and then Aaron Lahr P10 there, completing the prime podium with Jones in the P2 position. Tim Chong in the end holds on to take second place in the AM class, 11th overall in the best DRS drive for the slipstream sloth driver ahead of Nick Vader and Mark Senegal, and then it will be David Turn ahead of Sammy Hendricks to complete your top 15, with then Kevin Manning P16 ahead of Ian Hennebury, who's come through. Glenn Bratton takes P18 in the end in what was a quite into the race, P7 in the AM class, with Billman DaCosta and Adam Ballard completing your top 20. Nick Yakubov in the end gets one up and over Roger Ganesh, who in the end finishes behind him in the battle for P21. And with that, ladies and gents, we then have Milan Harris, a difficult end to his race, but a late incident cost him very dear. It drops him down to P23, and that's where he's going to finish here today as he makes his way up through the final corner. It's definitely been a difficult day for some drivers, but everybody who started has finished the race so far, and we'll think we're on course to have 30 finishes out of 30 starters. Harris finishes P23, then Francois Schick will be P24, and then David Adiyi, as he almost dives into the pits there by the looks of things. The privateer comes on through to complete our finishing order on the lead lap, and that will be P25 or P7 in the prime class. Well, goodness me, what a first race of the season. You could not have made this up. But for James Logsdon. I don't think he's going to quite believe it right now. He's taken up the opening win of 2024 at the Middle of the Pack Racing League Series, and will the number 42 driver absolutely having to fight tooth, nail, claw, throttle pedal, you name it, in order to take that win. And John Lauzon, well, we talked about the bad luck following him over for 2023. The West Coast Best Coast driver definitely won't be feeling that bad luck today. It's been good vibes all the way for the Canadian, and he takes his first ever overall podium in an MPRL series, and with his first ever GR86 win as well. And what a drive there in the prime class from the 177 driver from Canada. And Kirk Lane, well, he'll be absolutely proud of that, to take the first AM win with the promotion of Samuel Bernardi. The big question would be today, who was going to fill the boots of Bernardi, and Lane the one to do so, as he pulls it to the start finish line there. And well, I think he's absolutely proud, as he does a little bit of a rev in there for the crowd. But what a race, ladies and gentlemen. And with that, let's take a look through those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. And after an incredible 30 minutes of racing here at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park in Ontario, Canada, we did see James Logsdon take the win in the end by 4 tenths for Team Bear Pope over West Coast Best Coast John Lauzon, your prime winner. Edwin Offred completed the overall podium, the privateer, in his first ever Middle of the Pack Racing League podium overall, ahead of Jason Landry, completed the pro podium there, P4 for Sunday GT Turtles. Julian Jones, P5 there on his debut, the ITD West driver having an absolutely fantastic debut to take P2 in the prime class, and 9 it was in the fight for an overall win, if not just the overall podium. And then Meek Hendricks, P6 West Coast Best Coast, ahead of Kirk Lane, with the AM driver there taking the first AM win, and with it the Bear Pope Zero driver. I think there's going to be a huge grid down to that paddock. Jaden Callaway in a quiet race, but the ITD West driver finishing P8 there, a solid start to his campaign, ahead of Daniel McConnell. And then Aaron Lahr, P10 there, having started all the way down the back row of the grid. Lahr carved his way through and made it into the top 10, and what an exceptional drive there for the 147. Tim Chong, second place in the AM class there, P11 overall, the Slipstream Sloths driver, having a great back and forth battle with Nick Bader, who finished P12 the privateer and completed the AM podium of Lane, Chong and Bader, ahead of Mark Single, David Turn and Sammy Hendricks, who round off your top 15, and behind the Bear Pope Zero driver Kevin Manning, P16, who for Photan Clan in the end found his way ahead of Ian Hennebury at the close of the race. Indeed, Billman DaCosta as well, and Billman DaCosta I do believe being involved in a late racing incident. Glenn Batten, P18, ahead of Billman DaCosta. The Team Bear Pope drove 9 that it could have been today, would have been a P16 on the cards overall, but still one to learn from. And Adam J. Ballard there completing your top 20 for Rockefeller Racing Esports Purple. And in Nick Yakubov, P21, the Slipstream Sloths driver just outdoing the Sunday GT Turtles driver Roger Ganesh, with Milan Harris, P23. A difficult start to his championship campaign, but still plenty of racing to come for both him and also Francois Schink there for Forever Alone. David Adeyemi, P25, a last lead lap finisher there, the privateer, and I think he'll be happy to finish on the lead lap given the incidents that did occur in the early stage of the race. And then finishing a lap down there, but not to be forgotten about, and will be classified as race finishers as they completed the race within 5 laps of the race winner. We do see there Jesse Jefferson Jr. for Photon Clan, Caboose Cruz, Christopher Holiday, Samuel Bernardi for Rockefeller Racing Esports Purple, and Carl Ranieri, the privateer. And then we see there, last but not least, P30 for Caboose Crew, 3 laps down, but still classified as a finisher, the AM driver Kyle Peterson on his debut. But now we come on to the individual class finishing positions here, because of course these do have bonus points to be awarded in both the Prime and the AM classes. And in the Pro class firstly, James Logsdon with the win by 1 second in the end over Edwin Offred, with Jason Landry round off the podium after that unfortunate incident between himself and Mika Hendricks. A great sportsmanship being shown between the two drivers and resetting the racing and going racing once again. And Hendricks will have appreciated that, as will Jaden Callaway, who definitely got to see some fantastic sportsmanship, but also some great racing around him in the ITD West machine. And then Daniel McConnell, a bit of a lonely P6 in the Pro class, but 9 that today it was all about getting the car home inside that top 10 overall. Milan Harris, Francois Schink and Carl Ranieri complete your finishers in the Pro class, Ranieri being the sole driver who was a lap or more down. And then coming on to the Pro class, and the 3 bonus points go to your class winner, John Lauzon for West Coast Best Coast, 5 seconds clear of ITD West, Julian Jones, and Aaron Lahr completing at the podium there, having started from the back of the class. Behind the privateer, David Turner and Sammy Hendricks to complete the top 5, with Adam J. Ballard, P6 at David Adeyemi, and then at Samuel Bernardi finishing a lap down there for Rockefeller Racing Esports Purple. And then lastly, in the AM class, all 3 bonus points going there to Kirk Lane for Bear Pope Zero, with a 20.1 second gap to Tim Chong for Slipstream Sloths, and will Lane in a class of his own today, but still Chong and Bader putting on an absolutely thrilling fight for the second spot in the AM class and their respective bonus points as well. Behind the priority of Bader, Mark Senegal and Kevin Manning completing your top 5, and Senegal right on the heels of his podium finishes in the end, but not quite enough time today to get involved. But Kevin Manning in turn staying one step ahead of Ian Henneberry, with Glenn Bratton, Billman DaCosta, Nick Yakubov and Roger Ganesh completing the top 10. Best of SPLM was Jesse Jamison Jr. ahead of Christopher Holliday, and then was finishing 3 laps down, Carl Peterson there for Caboose Crew, but all of our Amtris classified as finishers. But what a race we've had here today, ladies and gentlemen, at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Indeed, it has set the tempo for this season that lies ahead, but sadly, that does mean it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now thinking, well, have you got spaces available in this GR86 Winter Championship for 2024? Can I be on the grid? Well, if you want to be on the grid, or you just want to know more about the Middle of the Pack Racing League community and plenty more, we do recommend you officially join our Discord. A link available on screen there. We're an open community, an ever-growing community. We've been growing for the best part now of what is the last 3 years, and as our series go from strength to strength, we would love to have you on board at the community, whether just an observer or wanting to be on the grid. But if you don't want to go to our Discord, perhaps you're a little bit shy, but perhaps you're more of a social media person, we do recommend you follow us on Twitter, and that's at twitter.com/MOP Race, and we can stay up to date with all the latest announcements regarding upcoming series and also the trials and tribulations of the official Middle of the Pack Racing esports teams. But now, ladies and gentlemen, attentions do turn to round number 2, of course, and after a thrilling opening round, well, in a week's time, we'll be bringing you all the racing action as if it were live from Lime Rock Park. In round number 2, the broadcast will be at the same time on Saturday the 27th of January 2024, but the racing itself will be on Wednesday the 24th of January, and the question will be at the absolutely nip and tuck American circuit, a classic when it comes to cup level racing. Will the momentum continue? Will we see all new winners in our classes in round number 2, or will we see our first repeat winners emerge through? James Logsdon is the name to beat at the front of the field, but also in what will be the Prime and the AM classes, John Lawson and Kirk Lane will be looking behind them to see which of their rivals are able to take it to them. Find out the story continues in a week's time, but until then, we have been the Middle of the Pack Racing League. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, depending on what media follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay well, stay safe, stay smiling, but most importantly, as always, remember to stay on track. Good night.